Welcome all, welcome, welcome. Happy December. Here we go. Almost time for a nice little break for you all. Us too. We take it's cap holiday, the week in between Christmas and New Year's. We are out, right, Peggy?
Yep, we try and go off the grid as best we can.
Do our best. We do our best at least. So yeah, welcome, welcome. Got I think some kind of cool things to talk about today, at least kind of headline for us today. We are really excited about this new initiative, which is off to a great start. Got some really nice momentum here, and we are definitely going to call on your help. Right? You hear us say, me specifically, right? Just about every time I'm in front of school counselors that we think of ourselves as just kind of the tip of the spear, right? That are helping families get through this process, and the better we can be on the same page, the more the more effective that we can be. So for those of you that, and I see a bunch of you that are always or consistently on with us and kind of some of our power partners here, welcome back. Good to have you. As always, for those of you that are new to us, welcome. Right, we love folks that are kind of just kind of joining to see what we're all about here. My name's Matt Carpenter. I'm one of the founders at College Aid Pro. I'm here at our office in Salem, Mass, just north of Boston here. And we got Peggy out there in the desert in Tucson. So this is, yeah, for those of you new to her, this is the real fairy godmother of financial aid. In case you never get to meet her before. So say hi, Peggy.
Happy to be here. I hop in and out of this event, and it's always great. We love to support you guys. I have a lot of respect for all of you. I have twins who have graduated college, went to a big public high school, and I was always amazed at their counselors and everything they had on their plate, and they just always had a smile on their face. Keep doing all the work you can do, all you do, and we can support you in any way. A bit easier. We love doing that, so that's why we're here.
Go, yeah, fighting the good fight here. Okay, so let's see, couple of things. So if you haven't seen in socials, we sent out a direct email to you yesterday as well, and we're just doing our best to scream it from the mountaintops. We're doing this thing called the Net Price Calculator Challenge, NPC Challenge, right? And the point of this, and there's a few gets here, but and again, in case you haven't been paying attention or you're new to us, something that we're trying to be very vocal about is net price calculators on the whole are just very unreliable, right? And I think school counselors in particular are in a really tricky position where, you get these questions from families that say, "Hey, is this college generous? How are they with scholarships? How are they with financial aid?" Especially with the need-based financial aid part, it's really hard for you to be able to answer that question because even if you knew exactly how the University of Chicago was versus Baylor versus Clemson, and you really knew how they did with financial aid, in order to be able to give that family an accurate answer to their question, right? Ultimately, is this school going to be affordable for us? You'd have to look at their tax returns. You'd have to know their college budget, right? This information that I don't think you're just not going to have, okay, in the vast majority of cases. And so what do you do, right? Most school counselors are like, well, I guess go to the college's net price calculator. And no, and again, most school counselors, how are you to believe that that's not the appropriate solution? You're not supposed to know that, right? It's not your job to know that. It's our job to know that, right? And so we are again kind of screaming from the mountaintops to say it doesn't mean don't do the net price calculator at a college. You should check a couple different places, but we should be one of them, right? And we should be the most trusted in terms of being the source of truth and what is your family actually going to pay at this college. So we're putting our money where our mouth is, and what we are doing is saying this goes for school counselors, this goes for students, this goes for parents. We're saying go check out a college's net price calculator and see what that says versus what our calculator says, right? mycap.collegeaidpro.com. Send it to us if there's a discrepancy, right? Our data team will analyze it for free. Okay, so they'll go look at it, right? They'll run the NPC at the college. They'll look at it in ours. And if we find out that, you know what, guys, we got it wrong, and the college got it right, we're going to pay that user $100. Okay. And again, if you got some industrious kids out there, hey, tell them, go out there, go make $500. If you go find five colleges where they're more accurate, then our projection will give you $500. And we are so we've already got some great engagement, right? So this has been awesome. But there's again a couple of different gets for us kind of collectively here. Number one, we just want to make sure that families are getting accurate projections. They really understand what they're going to get or not get at the colleges that they're considering. Number two, we want to get better. So we are hoping, we haven't had one yet, but I'm confident we're going to have more than one, where we're going to be the college's net price calculator is going to be more accurate than ours, right? But guess what? We're going to get smarter at that college, right? That's going to be our feedback loop, where now we will say, whatever those colleges end up being, hey, look it, they are more dialed than we are at their particular college. So then now we can update our algorithm and we are more accurate at that college moving forward. That's worth more than $100 to us, right? And we're happy to, again, somebody gets to put a couple bucks in their pocket. So that's kind of the point of this initiative. And again, we're really asking you all for help. Please just kind of share this out with your families, because I think if I'm a consumer, that's a kind of a nice benefit of like, okay, wow, these guys that do this every day is going to analyze my awards and figure out, who's right, who's wrong, and provide some clarity here. And again, if we're wrong, you're $100 richer. So again, please, share, and we will. Actually, probably the best thing for them to share right now is, well, that is a good question. Should they share the blog? Should they maybe just ping Eileen for me real quick, or Bill, Peg, and just say like, what should we share with these guys right now, for them to share with their parents?
Okay, I'll take care of it.
Please, thank you. And then I will start sharing my screen here. So you've again, some of you that pay attention all the time will recognize some of the stuff I'm about to show you, but I think it's good to just kind of again get smarter so you can go be smarter in your community. But this is kind of the net price calculator challenge, right? Just run the college's net price calculator, run the same college in MyCap, right? Peg shared the website, mycap.collegeaidpro.com, and then just send your discrepancy to us. It doesn't, we're trying to make this a low lift. It would be great to have a screenshot of the college's net price calculator and ours and stuff like that, but it's no problem. You can just say, hey, Northeastern said their calculator said we were getting 30,000. You guys said we should get 40,000. Go check it out. And we'll walk them through next steps. Our team is kind of at the ready here, and they've been very dialed. So, what brought us kind of to this place? We did an audit of about 4,000 colleges. Our data team collectively spent, I don't know, countless hours going to figure out again going to, I don't know, confirm or deny what a lot of us have been saying, based on our experience with these, to do a deep dive on, again, most four-year colleges net price calculators. You can see here, only 4% of them are up to date in terms of what their college costs. So forget about all the other variables that go into determining a net cost. It's hard to be accurate with your net cost if the cost of attendance is off. 70%, right? 70% of the colleges, their costs were outdated by at least 2 years. Okay. Now, again, nobody has to have, there is no deterrent for not being accurate in your net price calculators, for not having these updated. There is no watchdog or overseeing body that says, hey, guys, these things, not only do they have to be on your website, they got to be accurate, right? Because then it could be the opposite of what we're hoping for, which is to get a clear picture of what the school is going to cost, especially because people in general, in my experience, school counselors in general, kind of trust these projections, right? Now, again, be clear, we're not trying to say, although I think there's some bad actors, but on the whole, it's not that colleges are, I think, being deliberately misleading or things like this. It's just something that they don't have to maintain, so they don't, right? It's just kind of a check the box, have something on the website to get federal financial aid, right? And they're not really, again, incentivized to try to be more accurate than that. Here's what I think, in my experience, just about anybody in this space that I have sorry, that I have talked about with this are pretty surprised by this. Okay, actually, we should do a trivia, but how many colleges have their own net price calculator? Well, you see it here. Exactly zero. There's not one college that has their own net price calculator. Every single one of them refer them out to a third party. There's about a half dozen or so different, vendors that these colleges use. Of course, the Department of Education is one of them. Most schools that are FAFSA only schools, Department of Education, or sorry, the public schools use the Department of Education calculator, right? It's actually particularly bad in most cases. But the other thing here that's a little bit wonky for people is that the colleges all say, look, we're not going to sell your data and stuff like this. We can remarket to you, okay, but we're not going to sell your data and things like this. But you're entering the calculator of a third party vendor. What they do, and again, aside from the Department of Education, these are all private companies, and I know College Board is a nonprofit, but I still consider them very much a private company. If
They're
you,
a very rich nonprofit.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, they're a nonprofit, but next time you're in Midtown Manhattan, go check out their skyscraper and tell me how much of a nonprofit they are. But anyways, if you, and I don't know why you would, but we went down the rabbit hole here. If you read the fine print of those third party net price calculators, most of them, do disclose we are in fact selling and repackaging your data, et cetera, and that's part of our revenue stream essentially. Which again, I think people, consumers, are a little bit, in my experience, surprised to hear that because they're like, but it's the college's website. They're not going to do that. It's not. You're going to kind of a third party website. Okay. Now, looky, does that mean every net price calculator is inaccurate? Of course not, right? Some of them are pretty stinking good. So we want to make sure that we are giving kudos to those that deserve kudos. Clark University being a good one here. Our only kind of knock is that, generally speaking, we find them to be very accurate with their projections, but you got to answer more than 70 questions, right? It's kind of like a pretty, I think it's a meaningful amount more comprehensive than doing the FAFSA. It's not quite as labor intensive as CSS profile, but it's somewhere in there and probably towards the CSS profile deal. So that's something that we really pride ourselves on too, is like, how can we give accurate projections without being too labor intensive, right? Which, in everybody's defense here, easier said than done. You heard me pick on the federal template earlier. We especially like to call this out when schools that use the institutional methodology, more to come there. But private colleges that don't really consider the FAFSA at all, or it's borderline irrelevant when packaging families, are using the federal net price calculator when it has nothing to do with the college's business model. So we know at its foundation, this thing is going to be wildly off for the vast majority of folks that use it. Gonzaga and American are a couple that we're picking on there. And again, they're not the only private schools, but just a couple that we wanted to show. So this is just, I'm not going to get too far in the weeds here, but these are just a few case studies we did at some of the schools that get a ton of applicants each year. And we picked on, a couple different buckets of families, the, really low SAIs to higher SAIs and somewhere in the middle. And we evaluated how were our projections versus the college's net price calculators, right? And this obviously is an example of, Baylor here, where they're not that bad. Okay, they're really not that bad from the actuals, but we are a meaningful amount better. Okay, Northeastern, this is I think a better example, especially with the high SAI family, right? Where a college said, here's what they are going to be paying, right? 31,000, right? We were still high, but a lot more within range, right? And in this case, they were four times projecting to pay four times higher than they actually paid. Now, you might look at this and say, well, that's great. The family's going to be pleasantly surprised. Yeah, but guess what? How do you think they're going to do on an appeal when they go to try to get a better deal from Northeastern? They're not going to appeal, okay, because they think they already did better by a meaningful amount than they were expecting. And this is where we see a decent amount of colleges, and we haven't proved this, at least on the record, can get a little bit intentional with how they package people versus their net price calculator, and it's good for business, right? And again, if you pay attention to us at all, you know we've been hammering Northwestern, right, about this.
I'll also add here that, and I've had this exact example, parents that are all over this will take a school off their list because of inaccuracies from an MPC. So then that's hurting that student who might love a school, and the parents are saying, wow, that's not affordable. When in fact, CAP is showing them, I have this exact example, by the tune of $30,000 a year. And the mom, when she realized the child still applied to the school, matched what we said, she was mad, but not at us, but at the colleges, because she's like, I took this school and this school and this school off. I wonder if those MPCs were off as well. So there's that piece of it too.
And it tends to be the schools that kind of do this game, for lack of a better word, that are wildly popular schools, right? Northeastern and
Always.
Northwesterns know they're not going to have any empty beds, right? They're going to have full classes, so they can be more. And obviously, that's not every college, right? These guys are kind of the exception rather than the rule, so they can get more focused on margins, right? They don't just have to worry about let's fill all of our beds. Um, and again, just another example here that's uh, pretty meaningful. Okay, and RPI, right? Great engineering school up here in the Northeast, and just again another I think pretty powerful case study. But Peg, you want to talk a little bit about these two examples that again are just two examples of why so many net price calculators are just broken before we even get started?
Yeah, so a lot of them, they don't project merit. And as you know, that's the name of the game for a lot of families to get a discount if their income is high, but at the same time they can't afford 60, 70, 80, $100,000 a year. So if they don't realize that, then they're walking away saying we're paying full price when potentially they could be getting a nice piece of change. I see a lot of money coming out of Vermont for out of state kids, which is not typical. ASU, I see it all the time, especially they're great for out of state kids. I used to live outside of Seattle and saw tons of these, really nice money. But if they don't project it, the family doesn't have the data, and then again they make decisions based on faulty information. So this is a whole nother piece of the puzzle that a lot of these calculators are just deficient. And the main way to know, if they're not asking for GPA and test scores, there's no way they're projecting merit.
There you go. Right. And obviously this is just a representation of a much bigger um list of colleges that do the same.
Yeah, so with divorce, separated, two households, split household families, whatever you want to call it, if people read the fine print, which they never do, it'll most likely say in there, the lawyers have written up that this is not accurate for that kind of family, or it says have one biological parent do it and another and mesh them. And that quite often is going to throw things wildly off. So that's another thing to think about with families. I mean, 50% of families are in this boat. And there's tons of planning opportunities around affordability for those type of families. But if they're just using MPCs as their guide, it's going to be more unreliable, I would argue, than traditional married filing jointly family.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's just like again, this meaningful percentage of the population, they're basically being told, and again, I do appreciate the transparency to your point, Peg, that we see most of these colleges get ahead of to say, hey, basically ignore this projection if you're divorced or separated in so many words. So again, that's something that we feel really confident that we can solve for, right?
Yeah, and these projections in general are not binding, right? I've had a few families through all my years. I always tell people to save the output, not like print it to PDF or whatever, not save it for the college. Um, and they can, we try whatever we can try on appeal, and I've had a few of them up the ante based on the MPC. It's been quite a few years. but they're not binding at all. So it's really to give an idea, but the school's not on the hook for the results in any way, shape, or form. So just keep that in mind as well.
100%, right? So this is again, I know most of you are familiar with our platform. Here's kind of our home dashboard, right? So this is where a family will onboard themselves, log in. If you are a school counselor, right, and you partner with us, you have your admin dashboard where you can have some you can have some exposure if you want to particular families as well, right? So you guys can kind of have these conversations together and you can get an idea, okay, are colleges that I'm suggesting also within this family's budget? Or you say, hey, here's the colleges we think you should investigate. Go put them in the platform and see if, they fit within your budget, right? So, a couple things I want to point out here. Number one, most people, they understand, okay, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of people understand I submit my FAFSA and I get my SAI, my student aid index, this dollar amount that gets assigned to my student. That's the kind of the foundation for determining need-based financial aid eligibility. But so many colleges, especially these popular colleges, right? Just as I'm looking at the page here, Amherst, BC, BU, Holy Cross, Connecticut College, Dickinson, each one of these actually happen to be, they use the institutional methodology. So that means the federal SAI is quite literally irrelevant at these colleges, okay? But consumers don't know this. In my experience, even a ton of school counselors don't know this. They still think that the college is anchoring to this SAI, and the challenges, and this is where consumers are kind of in the dark in terms of transparency. When we submit the CSS profile, it doesn't tell us our SAI. So, we really have nothing to anchor to, okay, unless we have the ability to have access to that algorithm, which obviously families do here. Why is that relevant? Okay, now I'll skip ahead here because I think this is again getting in the weeds a little bit. But why it's relevant is that, and I'll pick on Boston College because they've earned it. Okay, they're one of these colleges, and believe me, they're far from alone here, that if a family's federal SAI is higher than the institutional SAI, they will award them based on the higher SAI. So they'll say, hey, you saw your FAFSA. You had a $61,000 SAI. We met 100% of need. You're paying $60,000. They're not supposed to do that. Okay, that SAI should be much closer to 50. It should be at least $10,000 lower for this particular family, and this happens with some frequency. Okay, and every single time we call them on this and schools of the like, we will get more money, right? So in this case, we will definitely get at least 10,000 more dollars at Boston College and every college that inevitably plays this game, right? Institutional methodology schools. For the families, how can they do this on their own? Or you, if you're working with the families, okay? They just upload their awards here, right? They take a picture of their award and they say, okay, I got accepted into Boston College, right? And as soon as they do that, we will tell them, okay, how did you do? How likely is it that you can appeal for more money at Boston College? How much more should you be asking for? So the technology will do this for them. So we just want to make sure that again they understand that. Okay, let me show you another example that I think is can make this process a little bit confusing, right? So we see UC Santa Barbara, okay, $86,000. We're going to pay $86,000. If we go to do a deep dive here, it doesn't make sense sometimes because it says that, okay, well, UC Santa Barbara, this is public information that they provide, uses the federal methodology. Our SAI was $61,000, if you remember, okay? They meet 83% in need, not bad. They meet 92% in need in grants. Very good. Why am I not getting any financial aid? Because I'm an out-of-state student trying to go to UCSB. Okay. Honey Badger don't care. You're not getting anything. It doesn't matter if my SAI was $20,000 and I was eligible for $65,000 worth of need-based financial aid. It doesn't matter. This is how this school actually does business for out-of-state residents. Okay. So they're publicly available information, right? Our algorithm has to override because it doesn't apply to most families, right? So again, it's like even if we understand the rule, cost of attendance minus SAI equals need, and we have the publicly available information from a particular college, that doesn't mean how it's going to work out, for a particular family. So again, that's just a couple examples that I want to show that just make this hard for consumers to try to figure this out. And obviously this is the big solution we're trying to provide there. Do you have anything to add there, Peggy? Or anything else?
No, I mean that's just a perfect example of this and we see this all the time with state schools. But like I said earlier with merit, some of the state schools are great at offering merit to out-of-state kids and not to and but then others, the majority of them, like a Boulder, they give a little merit to out-of-state kids, but it's very, very, very little. And so there's the need-based side, like Matt was just explaining, but then there's also the merit side. Because I know all of you different zip codes where your schools are, you could have a part of your population where they're not going to get any need-based aid, but they still really, really need some discounts. And so through our tool, we're going to show that as well. We're not just going to say, we're not just going to project merit all the time. We're really going to look at the student and the business plan that the school uses to do the merit side as well as their business plan on the need-based side.
Yeah, and 100%. And and again, that's why it gets pretty stinking comprehensive.
I'm gonna put in the chat. I just put it in the chat a blog post that we did that runs you through the MPC challenge. But in the follow-up that gets sent out, because they get a follow-up to this, Matt.
Yeah, we'll send a follow-up with a
Yeah.
recording.
So Eileen, our one of our colleagues, she said they'll also put something specifically in there. But if you want it right now, this walks you through all the steps and what your families need to do with the challenge.
Yeah, it goes even further into the weeds than we're kind of teasing here yet. But yeah, help us bring awareness here, put us to the test. And hey, if you got kids, and you're going through this yourself, you want to make a couple bucks, go find some discrepancies, right? Go find some colleges that are beating us here. So a couple things just to, I guess, reiterate, because this is not new news, right? These announcements in terms of federal student loan repayments that you might have seen in the news over the last 24, 48 hours, they got announced some months ago, but they're officially live now. Okay, so just if you're getting inbound questions, and again, maybe from past students or whatever, this is just some of the information for what's going on. The long and the short of it is that, before now, essentially, for families that have a federal student loan, it could be a student, it could be a parent that had a plus loan, it could be obviously both in some cases. They had a handful of options in terms of the repayments on these federal student loans. Okay. Essentially, what happened is now that there's just two. Okay. And so a couple of them are just being completely eliminated, and they're simplifying things. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. There was some kind of scary stuff that we were hearing about when they were proposing some changes here. But I think, eventually we landed on our feet. One of the repayment plans is just your standard. Let's sign up for a 10, 15, 20-year repayment plan, and it's just a flat fixed rate, and that's the deal. Okay, I think what'll end up being the more popular, the more used plan is what they're calling this RAP plan, right? Repayment Assistance Plan. And essentially what this is that the amount, the size of your monthly payment is capped based on your household income and the amount of dependents you have. So it still has a lot of those same protections that some of these other repayment plans had. But again, everybody's just in kind of one plan, which again, I think it can also be a benefit in the terms of that it simplifies things. The other thing here that is not mentioned, I don't think it's mentioned on this slide either, but yeah, but is I think noteworthy, is that some of these repayment plans currently you could get in a situation where the amount of your monthly payment was exceeded by the amount of interest you're accumulating each month, right? So it's almost putting you in this. Your bill gets bigger every single month. So not good for morale, not good for trying to do anything else kind of in your life financially. The language in this new rap plan is that cannot happen. Okay, so they're saying if you're of a certain low income and you're making this minimum $10 a month payment, the amount of interest that can accrue each month cannot be more than that $10. So I think there's some nice protections there around consumers. Again, I don't, it's not all peaches and cream, but again, in terms of what we were looking at as potentially happening. Again, we landed on our feet. I'm pretty happy here in terms of the end result. Okay, really the biggest action items. If you are a student or a parent that is currently on the or was on the Save repayment plan, that one is you can't even use it anymore. Interest is accruing currently. So if you have not done so already, you have to get out of there and get into the wrap plan. The other plans are all automatically transitioning into the wrap plan. Whereas again, this save one is not happening automatically. You have to manually be banging down the door to make sure that you get in this new repayment plan. So again, we'll send out a summary there, but I just wanted to tease it in terms of again, if you saw that in the news the last couple of days and wanted to know what was cooking, that's what's up. And then I'm going to show you something else. So you've heard us talk about these guys at Juno. Again, if you give me one second. Um, Sorry. Give me one second, guys. I'll go find that. Go find that link because that's the wrong one. But these guys at Juno, we are big fans of specifically for those that need to get into a different repayment plan or they need to um, they're going to graduate school or they are they need to refinance their plan. So these are just really smart kids. These they're not kids. These I don't know. I guess grown-ups, really smart grown-ups that a couple Harvard business guys that figured out a way to basically negotiate better rates for consumers. Essentially, they did it at Harvard, and they've been able to extend that beyond the years. So we are big fans of what these guys do, and if I can find the appropriate link, I'll share it. But it might have to wait for the follow-up. One second. Okay, and then the other note that Bill had to make sure that he reminded me of right now, um, if you are a Score user or a Zello user specifically, okay, make sure and we because again, we have this integration on the way with them. Nudge your Score rep, nudge your Zello rep, because the only thing that we're battling them on, okay, and that's probably not a fair word, is the timeline here, right? And we're anxious to get this going. And I know, again, a lot of you have been very vocal to say, hey, get this integration going because we already have it with Power School and it's been really, really effective. And you guys are loving it and using it and all that. And we want to do the same with Score so we can kind of get the power of our financial piece of the puzzle into the Score platform. Okay, if you do not partner with us already, please consider doing so. And here's what I would recommend: just book some time with me. I'm sharing this link right here, but so this page that I'm showing, book some time with me. Here's something new that we're doing. So for those of you that don't know, our quick deal from a high perspective, there's two ways, a high level. There's two ways that we partner with high schools, right? The vast majority of you guys really care about what we do, but you don't have any budget to invest in our technology or what we have to offer with schools. Again, I'm talking the vast majority of it. That's totally fine. So you help parents understand that they have this tool that can help them with the affordability piece of the puzzle for college. Um, Now, some of you do have budget, and you say, okay, hey, we want to just the way that we invest in Score and Zello and Naviance, we want to invest in, College Aid Pro to make sure our families have premium access to the technology. So certainly we can do that, but for most of you, that's not possible. But what we will still do is even if you don't have money to invest as a school, we still set you up with your kind of own environment. You can have your admin access as school counselors. We will give you a training so you understand how to use it. You understand how to how parents can use it, and everybody has access to the free version of the platform. If any parents want to upgrade on their own, they pay $5 a month, $4.99 a month. Okay. But even the free version, they're going to get a ton of value. They're going to get everything that I showed you, today. All free and reduced lunch families get the premium version of the platform for free. So, keep that in mind as well. So long as we partner with your school, we give it to all the free and reduced lunch kids a premium version for free. If anybody wants to upgrade that's not free and reduced lunch, $5 a month. Otherwise, they stay on the free version. And again, some schools partner with us, by buying, invest in the platform for everybody. So talk to us. If you don't work with us already, talk to us. Even if you do, I think there's a lot of good resources on here. Me and Peggy do a podcast every week. We got kind of a free resource library that you can share with your families that I think, again, is very, very comprehensive guides on the FAFSA, on the CSS profile, all things financial aid and scholarship. So again, if you haven't already, please schedule some time to chat with us. And I guess me specifically, I'll just grab my calendar link as well here. Give me a
And while you're doing that, I just had a good question from somebody. When you, not specific, but just ballpark, when you say, in a meaningful way, we're off on the MPC, can you just give an idea of what you mean by meaningful?
Well, honestly, I want to. So I don't. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting exactly what I said, but I think I can rearticulate and hopefully be clear. If you have any questions, if a net price calculator, a college's net price calculator in our calculation is $1 off, still send it to us, okay? And we will take a look and just again maybe say, hey, great, we are perfectly aligned. You guys should feel very confident about this projection, okay? Now, if we find out that even in that example that the college's net price calculator is a dollar closer than ours, they're better than ours. Okay, so that's $100 for whoever that is. The point is that we are again, and we are. I'm not kidding you. We are rooting to find some examples to say, look at this college is more accurate than we are in projecting at their school. They have it right, and we got to get better at that school. $100 to that family for bringing it to our attention. Now, obviously, we know this is not going to happen too frequently, right? Like we're very, very confident we're not going to lose our shirts here. But we are that confident that again, we're just hoping if we put our money where our mouth is, people will really start to pay attention and believe us. And even if they're going to do these projections, that's a win. It means they're really like engaged, right, with this investment. So and again, I think a lot of you probably heard about our partnership with Niche. They put us through the ringer, right? And they have over 900 colleges. That is their revenue stream, right? That is who keeps the lights on. And some at Niche is the colleges. So we had to prove to both Niche and the particular colleges that again, we were very accurate in our projections. Uh, so again, please put us to the test. Please challenge us. That is the very point of this thing. And again, same goes for school counselors too. Even if you guys are running this with students, or again, if you are on the front lines, kind of having these granular financial conversations with students and families, we welcome you all as well.
Yeah, because somebody asked earlier in the chat, what about, is it just seniors? And I said, no, if you got a junior that's ahead of the game,
Yeah.
have them do it. That's my dream, that as these families are building their college list, that they're doing all of this. So by the time they decide where they're applying, they have a very good idea about affordability on all the schools. And
100%.
that's part of their decision of finalizing the list.
I'm falling apart at the seams here, Peggy.
I know, I know. You need a break, don't you?
Emma homesick today, so it looks like
Gonna
that
go through the
I'm in,
family,
I'm in the
basically.
office, but it looks like I did not escape it. So, um, all right, Peggy, anything else for you to sign off on?
Nope. I think yeah, just my usual message to you all, like I said at the beginning, keep up the good work and any way we can step in and help you and help your families. Just it's a journey they're on. And I've been through this times too. I'm sure some of you have been through it with your kids or you're going through it now. It can be very opaque and stressful. And I always tell people, it doesn't have to be nearly as bad as it is for most families, but you need to leverage and get some support along the way, families to make it easier, basically. And that's why we exist.
Try it. All right, guys, appreciate all of you as always. If we don't connect before the holidays, have an amazing holiday,
Yeah,
whatever you
happy holidays. Get some time to kick back, relax, regenerate. It's important.
100%. We will do the same. But in the meantime, put us to the test, please. And yeah, we welcome the challenge. And thank you guys. Always appreciate you. Thanks, Peggy.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye bye.